This is one of those weekends where how many of you get like a 4-day weekend out of this? You don't. I didn't give you a 4-day weekend. I'm a slave driver. We all had this freedom to relax, enjoy, but listen, this weekend is not about getting a great buy on a new car. This weekend isn't so that you can go buy a mattress on sale. And this weekend is not about going to Powell's Furniture and buying a bedroom suit 50% off. And this weekend is not about those who have served and come home. This weekend is not about our veterans, and I can say that coming to you as a veteran. It is not about our service. This weekend is all because of those who have gone before us, who put their lives, their freedom on the line so that the life we could have here could continue. We remember this weekend those men and women who gave of themselves selflessly. But I also think in this weekend we forget sometimes. We miss an aspect of what's in their sacrifice. We forget that there were young men and young women who had hopes and dreams of returning home. We forget that even amid their sacrifice, they had a little bit of hesitation, maybe some internal conflict between doing their job and fear. And they did it anyway. I was reminded by someone that of all the conflicts that we have been involved in since the Civil War, we have not had to experience those conflicts on our own soil. Why is that? The only real answer is that there have been men and women willing to leave their homes and families to travel to a foreign land to sacrifice themselves so that we could continue to sit on our decks and burn our hamburgers. So that we could gather without fear, that we would have the ability to live life without the sounds of war just outside of our homes, except AP Hill. And those aren't the sounds of war, those are the sounds of freedom. We remember this weekend the struggle that moved within them, where they began to better appreciate the sacrifice that was made, that it was, and maybe in what Jesus said. Jesus was talking to his disciples in John chapter 15. And so we're going to look at the greatest sacrifice made today and what it should compel us to do amongst each other. Today we need to remember the greatest sacrifice. Turn in your Bibles with me to John chapter 15. See, I think it's a wonderful thing that Jesus would come to us. It is so amazing that he would sacrifice himself for us. See, a service member will go to battle. They will join and they will go to battle in the hopes that they will not have to die and they can come home. What blows my mind is Jesus came to fight this battle knowing he would die and still go home. And if you want an example of what sacrifice is, yes, it is in the men and women who have died defending our freedom, but it comes at the greatest sacrifice of Jesus defending our real freedom. Let's start in chapter 15, verse 12. This is my commandment, that you love one another just as I have loved you. How has he loved you, church? He gave himself up a ransom. Greater love has no one than this, that one lay down his life for his friends. You are my friends if you do what I command you. No longer do I call you slaves, for the slave does not know what his master is doing. But I have called you friends, for all the things that I have heard from my Father I have made known to you. You did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you that you would go and bear fruit, and that your fruit would remain, so that whatever you ask of the Father in my name, he may give to you. This I command you, that you love one another. It's interesting. When Jesus wrote this, when Jesus spoke this actually to the disciples, dying for others was actually considered by the Greco-Roman stories, dying for someone was considered very heroic. And that a friendship that would move you to die for someone was considered of the highest moral values. But now let's remember who Jesus is talking to. If you recall, he's talking to a bunch of Jews. He's talking to people from Israel. And in the nation of Israel did not share the general Greek perspective on sacrifice. Jewish belief said you die, it was a good thing if you died for the law, their law, but never for somebody else. A rabbi within a few decades of John argued that a person's own life took precedence over someone else's life. So you can imagine this is what they have learned their whole life. Look out for number one. And so these words of Jesus, it says, no greater love is a man than this, that he laid down his life for his brother. But like, hold, time out, Jesus. I got a problem. He's my buddy, but I am not dying for him. But he said, but I'm going to die for you. You're no longer slaves. You're my brother. You're my brothers, and I am going to die for you. Now, he didn't say that right then, but trust me, when he would be crucified, these words would come back to them. He called us a friend. And he did exactly what he asked of us to do for each other. See, he spoke this way to his disciples because he already knew what was going to happen. He knew the sacrifice he was going to make. And when it happened, he wanted them to remember. He wanted this to come back to them so that they would know what he had done and what he had called on them to do. And I love this about Jesus. He says, I have commanded you. Then he would go and do the same thing. Jesus never has commanded us to do anything that he himself has not already done. You say, well, that command's hard. He did it. You say, well, he was fully God. You're right. He was also fully human. The emphasis isn't just on the friends here. It's about the laying down of his life. It focused on the level of sacrifice that defines what a true friend is. Sacrifice is defined by Merriam-Webster as destruction or surrender of something for the sake of something else. And let's be honest, guys. Sacrifice is not something the average American can deal with much. And you're thinking to yourself, oh, yeah, we sacrifice. No, come on. We won't sacrifice 9 foot of space on the highway. We will not sacrifice that one parking spot that's 20 foot closer to the door. Oh, we'll get mad at somebody that took our space, won't we? We will rarely sacrifice a meal or two to save a few dollars so that somebody else can eat. Sacrifice is not something that honestly exists in the normal day-to-day vocabulary of most people. We teeter toward this idea that we want it now, and we don't want to have to give up anything in order to get it. I want to lose weight, but I'm not giving up those chocolate chip cookies. See, I honestly think that's why we actually stand in awe of real sacrifice. Because when sacrifice is so real and so personal, when sacrifice is given so freely by someone, when sacrifice of immense proportion is actually exhibited by someone, we call that person a what? A hero. And rightfully so. You know why? Because self-preservation is the first law of physical life, but self-sacrifice is the first law of spiritual life. And a deep, willing sacrifice is a mark of the greatest sort of love. Jesus said that this type of friend is the greatest friend you can have. This type of love is immeasurable. It is a true sacrifice. It is amazing. It is worthy of honor. It is worthy of praise. Sacrifice is a mark of real love. How much do you have to love something that you are willing to die for it? for you to willingly lay down your existence for someone you will most likely never, ever meet. It's mind-boggling. But many men and women have done just that. But also remember, it was the deepest kind of love. It's the love of God that brought Jesus to the place where He would lay down His life willingly for you. Sacrifice is a mark of loyalty. You often hear stories about a dog that will protect their master. Anybody got a dog like that? A pet who will get and stand in between her and her owner when someone comes up. That's why we call a dog a man's. Proverbs 17:17 says, a friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. Proverbs 18:24 reads, but there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother. That is loyalty. And loyalty is that trait to be highly valued. Loyalty is a character trait that is rare and prized. It means to be steadfast in the face of any temptation to renounce, desert, or betray, to refuse to do those things. This is the kind of friend I want to have. It's the kind of friend who doesn't run in the face of temptation to dodge a bullet, but stays in the fight. I want you to think about that. The Bible says that Jesus was tempted in every way that you and I would be tempted. He could have said no when faced with such heavy opposition, but He didn't. His love and friendship was loyal to the very end. And church, that's the mark of real life. It takes someone who is very secure in and with their own life to really sacrifice for somebody else. That sort of person knows that they matter. But at the same time, they know that their life, that life itself is so much bigger than them. A person that is secure to live freely. They are content. I mean, think about it. How content with who you are do you have to be to walk up to it and be nailed to a cross? On purpose. Jesus faced temptation. He faced ridicule. He faced physical abuse and never blinked. Because He knew who He was. He knew what He was doing. And He knew who He was doing it for. Paul understood it. He mentions it throughout the New Testament, Romans 8, Philippians 3, 1 Thessalonians 3. In 2 Timothy, he said, for this reason I also suffer these things, but I am not ashamed. You know why? Because he knew who he was. And the love of God compelled him. Because he said, I know whom I have believed, and I am convinced that He is able to guard what I have entrusted to Him until that day. Paul was not ashamed to sacrifice because he knew in his heart what real life was. He knew what real living was. Paul knew that his sacrifice would mean that somehow the way of Christ would continue beyond him. See, only somebody who knows their life mattered, that their life was a part of something bigger, will be willing to suffer like Paul suffered. See, the reason I don't think we sacrifice or suffer to that level in most cases is we're not even sure of ourselves. We don't even know who we are. We don't remember and we don't hold on until we don't embrace and we don't ingest and digest and manifest what it means to be a follower of Jesus Christ. He said, do not worry about who can kill the body but cannot kill the soul. He told His disciples, don't worry about it. The body they may kill, His strength abideth still. You got to be sure of yourself. The greatest example, of course, is Jesus. Never deterred from His mission. There was not a threat, not a ridicule that would ever derail His sacrifice. I want you to consider something today. Now, please make no mistake, I want us to remember the tremendous sacrifices that have been made by the men and women who died to preserve our freedom. But let me tell you something. Jesus died to create freedom. He could live and thrive in the face of it all because he lived a real and meaningful life, a life of unselfish, real love. Men and women die to help us keep the freedom. Jesus died to give you freedom. He said, if I have set you free, you are free indeed. That's the greatest sacrifice, was the one who died to give you the freedom. Consider the greatest sacrifice ever made. At the cross, yes, there was sacrifice. In the garden, yes, there was sacrifice. In Bethlehem, yes, there was sacrifice the day he was born. But the sacrifice began the moment God said, I will go there myself to a foreign land to defend them when they cannot defend themselves. I will go and set them free. And so when Jesus spoke these words to his disciples and to us, his call is for us to be his friends, to be friends of God, because he laid down his life. What an amazing offer. You can be called his friend because he laid down his life a willing sacrifice. And now he says, I call you friend, disciple. And the last thing he said was, this I command you, love one another as I have loved you. He gave love and loyalty and life so that he was no longer a distant stranger, but a close and dear friend. When he was speaking to the disciples, his own death on the cross would prove his words. Now they must prove their love for him by loving others. Real friends love each other and help each other. Real friends sacrifice for each other. He calls us friends. And shouldn't the friend of my friend be my friend? Look at the person on your left. Look at the person on your right. Shouldn't the friend of my friend be my friend too? In too many places in the world today, in American church today, we don't sacrifice for our brothers and sisters in Christ. He said, this command I give you, love one another just as I have loved you. Yes, real love is a command, but real love is an action. Real love is what we do, not merely what we say. Love is what we give without reservation. Real love sacrifices. If you or I cannot love our church family, it is honestly highly questionable that we have experienced the sacrificial love of Jesus Christ. He loves so much, he gave his all so that we call him friend. Because let me be honest, he did not love us because we're lovable. Have you seen us? We can do some really dumb things. He commands us to love people even when they're not lovable. His sacrifice wasn't dependent on us, nor is his love regulated by us. It is never changing. And he loves you, and there's nothing you can do about it. He loves you the way you are. He just loves you too much to leave you there. He calls us to be a true friend that loves genuinely and loves sacrificially. And Jesus was the mark of real love and real friendship. Now, I can't take credit for this next list. I found it, but I read it and I thought, yeah, Jesus embodied every one of these. And so should we, because he commanded us to do that, because he sacrificed for us. It's called a true friend is a friend from A to Z. They accept you as you are. They believe in you. They call you just to say hi. They don't give up on you. They envision the better part of you. They forgive your mistakes. They give unconditionally. They are there to help you. They invite you over. They will just be with you. They will keep you close to His heart. They love you as you are. They will make a difference in your life. They will never judge you unfairly. They will offer support when you need it. They will pick you up when you are down. They will quiet your fears. They will raise your spirits. They soothe your troubled heart. They will tell you the truth even when it hurts. They will understand you. They value your friendship. They walk beside you. They explain the hard stuff. They may yell when you don't listen. They will zap you back into reality. Jesus was and is that friend, and He calls us to be that real friend because He laid down His life for His friends. Calvary reminds us of what a true friend will do and how far it will go to save his friends. Greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. Will you be a friend? Again, look to your left. This is, you have to play along to make this work. Look to your right. Wave at everybody who's watching on screen. No, they can't see you. This room should be filled with friends. And in order to have a friend, you need to be a friend. That's what Jesus did. He said, I chose you. You didn't choose me. I chose you to be my friend. To have a friend, you got to be a friend. Will we be the friends that Jesus has called us to be? Because guys, the world is watching what we do with the love of Jesus. And I believe we stand at a place in time where we need to stop showing them how much we can have discontent and not get along, and show the world how His children, brothers and sisters, can actually get along because we sacrifice our selfishness. May the lost world see our love and it tell them of God as they look into our homes and as they look into our church.